Baking with Agave Nectar with Ania Catalano.
Hi, I'm Ania Catalano, author of Baking with Agave Nectar cookbook, and today we're going to be making bananas flambe over whole wheat crepes. First, we're going to take some whole wheat pastry flour. It needs to be the whole wheat pastry flour because regular hard winter wheat flour that's used for bread and regular baking will be a little too gritty. Alternatively, you can use spelt flour if you have allergies to wheat, or even a sprouted spelt flour. Okay, so we're going to start by sifting our whole wheat pastry flour into a bowl with a little pinch of salt. Okay, and as you can see, there's some kind of lumpy stuff there that will get eliminated because we want nice fluffy crepes. And we're going to add 2 eggs and 1 egg yolk to the batter. And with a whisk, we're going to start incorporating this together. And what we're going to do is we have 1.25 cups of 1% low-fat milk, but I'm going to add about a tablespoon to this, not all of it all at once, just a little bit, just to loosen it up. But we want to make kind of a smooth paste out of this. If you were to put all the milk into it, you would never be able to get the lumps out easily. You'd be whisking this for an hour. But while it's thick, you see you can really work that batter and get all the lumps out. And now you're ready to put the rest of the milk in there. So now you can just pour all the rest of the milk. And we're using a 1% low-fat milk. So we're really making these crepes much healthier than a normal crepe recipe would be, conventional crepe recipe, and a little bit of vanilla, about a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And it's going to be very, very thin. And you're going to think it's not going to work, but it will, because we're going to let it rest for about 20 minutes and the batter will thicken up a little bit, and then we're going to start making them. Okay, so we're ready to make our crepes. Our batter has rested for 20 minutes and we're heating up a nonstick pan. This is actually a green ceramic based nonstick pan, not the traditional Teflon coated, so it's a safer nonstick pan to cook in. And we're warming up the pan over a medium-high heat. You want your pan hot enough, but not scorching hot. So what happens many times is your first crepe might be not your best one. And it happens to anyone, it happens to any professional. The first crepe is kind of like the one the chef eats. So we're gonna see if mine comes out good. If it doesn't, it'll still taste good. So we're gonna try and get the pan to the right temperature, and then we're gonna add our little bit of butter to it. You don't wanna put the butter in too soon because it will burn. You wanna get the pan hot and then add your butter. So we can kind of almost test it out by putting a little tiny bit of butter in there and seeing what it does. And oh, it's ready. So we don't want a whole lot of butter, about 1/2 tablespoon. We just want to coat the bottom of the pan with the butter. And you can even take your spatula and kind of mix it around. And then we're going to take about 1/4 cup of the batter. And here's the whole trick of making the crepes. We're going to pour the batter right in the center, and as we're pouring, we're ever so slightly kind of swirling the batter around. Keep swirling. It's going to keep kind of going over the batter in layers until you have the whole pan covered. You don't want too much. If you're using a ladle, whatever's left in the ladle you put back. And see, there you have just enough batter on the pan, and you put it back down. Make sure your heat is on kind of a medium to high heat. And we're going to cook it for about a minute or so, not quite a minute, but you're going to wait until you see that the edges are getting dry, as you can see here, and the center is actually setting up. So when you see that, you don't want to start flipping or touching anything too soon, but when you see the edges are dry, you can start kind of like loosening them up with a spatula. This is a flexible sort of spatula, so you can kind of easily go underneath the crepe. And then what I do is I just kind of peek underneath to see if it's the right color, and it is. So let's see if we can do this first one without losing it. I kind of stick my spatula under there and I loosen it up from all angles here. We're going to do this quickly. Ooh, we got it. There we go. You're all done. Once you flip it and it didn't break, you're home free. Once you flip it, you kind of shake the pan around so it keeps the crepe loose. On this side, we're only going to cook it for a few more seconds because it's pretty much cooked. The batter was dry. You're just kind of giving it a little brown color. Right onto the plate. And voila, we have a crepe. After you remove your crepe, you're going to have a little bit of this leftover crepe batter that's on the pan. You have to clean and wipe that out with a clean kitchen towel before you put more batter in. But I'm going to finish cooking up these crepes and then we'll make the bananas. We're ready to make the bananas flambe for our crepes. So we're going to heat up our pan. Every time I have bananas flambe at a restaurant with ice cream, I always feel like, well, this would be so good with the crepe underneath it. So, hence, this is how this recipe came about. We're going to add 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter to our pan. Swirl it around. And as soon as it starts to melt, we're going to add a pinch of salt. And we're going to add a ½ cup of amber agave nectar. I'm using agave nectar. It's a new agave nectar that has the lowest glycemic index of agave nectars out there of 17. It tastes delicious and it's really a nice thick agave nectar. So we're just going to pour out ½ cup. Pour it right into our pan. We are going to let this start simmering and bubbling, and then we're going to reduce the heat and kind of let the agave nectar and the butter sort of thicken slightly before we add our bananas. Our agave nectar and butter are sizzling in the pan. Now we're going to add our bananas. And I have 4 sliced up bananas, ripe but not too mushy, not overly ripe. Let them start simmering in all this delicious butter and agave. And we're going to cook them until they soften up a little bit. So it's going to take about 2 to 4 minutes before they're soft, depending on how ripe your bananas were. Now we're going to be adding our rum and flambeing them. So it looks like a lot of rum, but it's going to all evaporate. All the alcohol will evaporate, and all you'll have is a delicious rum flavor. So we're going to pour it in, and then immediately afterwards, using a long kind of a aim flame lighter here, we're going to just light it and have all the alcohol evaporate. And this is a safe way of flambeing. There we go. And it's going to kind of be flaming for a couple minutes until the alcohol all burns off. So just be careful. Don't stand too close to the pan. but it will just die down once the alcohol is all burned off. There it is. It's all gone. Now we just have these delicious, soft bananas. And at the very end, we add a little bit of vanilla. Stir it all up. And we're ready to plate them. Okay, we're ready to plate up our whole wheat crepes with bananas flambe. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a crepe and fold it in half. And then again, to kind of make a little triangle. And I like to put 2 crepes on a plate per serving. And then we take a little bit of those sauteed, delicious bananas. They smell so amazing with that rum smell and the butter. Even though we use very little butter for this whole recipe, this serves 4 to 6 people. There's only 3 tablespoons of butter in the bananas. So it really is a healthier, decadent recipe. And the final thing, I think, with a nice warm dessert is some vanilla ice cream. And there's an agave vanilla bean ice cream recipe in my book, sweetened with agave nectar, which would be perfect complement to this. And we just put a nice little scoop right alongside it or over it. And then a little cinnamon, I think, just to make the plate look pretty. It's going to look like it came out of a gourmet restaurant. So there you go. Whole wheat crepes with bananas flambe with some vanilla ice cream. A great entertaining dish that is still healthier for you and very easy to make, and it will impress your guests. So enjoy.